Thanks for your support. We're going to be talking about this video from Louisville officers who shot a subject trying to flee in a vehicle. So we're going to talk about that. For those of you who don't know, I'm Joe Ested, founder of Police Brutality Matters. I have many years in law enforcement. I wear several different hats when it comes down to understanding law enforcement procedures, policy, use of force continuum. I was vice president of a police union. I worked specialized units, drugs and guns, federal task force. One of only a few officers that testified in federal court. Had cases go up to the Supreme Court, and the justices said, yeah, Officer Stead knows what he's talking about. So when people ask me, like, what makes you different from everybody else, my experiences make me different. My training, my knowledge. I went over to Afghanistan and built police procedures, policies, use of force continuums. So I have a little bit more than the average cop, because I've done more than the average cop. Went over 119 officers from different departments. We had to bring out policies and procedures. We had to create our own manual, our own training manual. So I got the opportunity to understand other departments, how they operate. And what I realized that when it comes down to use of force, especially deadly force, a lot of it is pretty universal. You're going to know when we start talking about deadly force, when an officer pulls the trigger, by policy, there's two elements that have to exist. Either the officer's life is at risk at that moment, or somebody else's life is at risk of that moment. That's the only justification that an officer has to use deadly force. Doesn't matter what the person did prior. I see this conversation all the time, and people say, well, I wonder what happened beforehand. You're not trained as an officer what happened beforehand on when you use deadly force. It's always what the subject is giving you at that current moment, at that time, just before you pull the trigger. So for all of you who believe that it matters, it don't. That's not how officers are trained. That's not what policy states. It's not my personal views, it's policy, it's procedures. So without going into any more detail about the video, I'm going to go ahead and show the video, and then we'll discuss exactly the incident at hand.
Stop the car! Stop the car! Taser! Shots fired! Shots fired! Stop the car! Stop the car! Stop the car! Do it now! Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Do it now! Hands up when you see him! Hands up when you see him! Hands up, passenger! Don't move! Hands out of the car! Don't move! Hands out of the car! Fucking shot my kid! You motherfucker! Get on the passenger! Get on the passenger! Hands up, passenger! Hands up! Hands out of the car! Hands out of the car! Where I can see him! 439 stage medical. Ambulance! I got medical coming! You fucking shot him! Are you for real? No one's passenger. The door is stuck. I can't get open. They're gonna have to go for the passenger side. I need you both to put your hands out the window. My fucking dog. Hands out the window. Now. Sumner, we're getting the passenger out. Passenger. The driver door is stuck. I need the passenger out. We're getting him. Okay. I'm bleeding really bad. I got medical coming. You need to stay calm. Stay calm. Open the door. Okay, I'm getting there.
Get him an ambulance.
I got ambulance coming. Pastor, I need you to get out so I can get to him, please. The door is stuck. I need you to get out of the passenger side.
I'm holding his arm from bleeding.
I have a tourniquet. I need to get it to him.
Oh my God.
Sir, I need you, Pastor, I need you to get hands out of the car now so we can render aid. Please get your hands out of the...
Can you open that door from the inside?
Okay, come out with your hands up.
Slowly.
Fucking shot our dog.
Come out with your hands up. Hands up.
Get out of the car. Slow. Face the bed.
Passenger, walk towards our voice now.
I need you to stay calm, okay?
Face away from us.
Dad, am I gonna die?
Keep walking back. Passenger, keep step back to me. Step towards me.
Back.
Keep walking backwards. Hands up back towards me.
Down to your knees now. Sir, am I gonna die?
No, you're not gonna die.
No.
I'm sorry, sir.
Hands on your head.
I just didn't want to go to jail. We don't have any weapons.
On top of your head. Get your handcuffs.
My dad's injured. Please, you guys be careful. Just easy with him, please. It wasn't his idea. It was mine.
Just
Okay.
stand right where you are.
Lay on your stomach.
439. Tourniquet applied.
What's wrong with your elbow?
Can you get him in handcuffs? Have to get that hand.
Yep.
You have
Dad, I'm sorry.
439. Tourniquet applied.
just stand right where you're at. Don't move. Give him in handcuffs.
Ow.
Hey, don't stop.
He's not resisting.
I know. Just
A firm. Tourniquet applied.
He's got a bad shoulder.
Which one's your bad shoulder? There, right? Handcuffs. Okay, tap down for what?
Anything on me?
Don't move. 437.
I'm really sorry, sir.
Rolling over.
That was a stupid idea. You ran my patrol car, and I thought you were gonna run us over. That's why I shot you.
Trying to run you over. I wasn't.
He needs a gunshot wound
Roll you up on
on his arm. Tourniquet's applied.
I want you to roll your legs forward. Put your legs forward. Okay, now we're gonna roll you
I
up.
got blood on me too, so
How long ago did you put this on?
like 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
Is he the only shot?
You have nothing
You feel
on
me
you?
touching right here?
Yeah, I'm just gonna do a quick
You feel me right here?
search. Make sure you don't
So
have
just
any
got one tase and then one
holes or
gunshot.
anything.
One tase, yep.
Wear gloves.
Okay. What do you need?
I'm gonna get cleaned up. That's what I need. Everybody's in custody. I don't know if the dog's okay or not.
Dog in there?
There it was.
Come out right here.
Okay, ready?
Okay.
Weapons.
Just stay steady.
Weapons more than anything.
Passenger, walk towards our voice now.
I need you to stay calm, okay?
Face away from us.
Well, you've seen the video. So let's talk about this video, right? Officers had a individual subject stopped. The subject obviously was trying to get away. You've seen it. Now, use of force, deadly force. We're talking about deadly force, right? When officer pulls a trigger. 2 elements have to occur, right? Either the officer's life at that very moment was at risk of being taken, or the life of someone else's. Now, we have the vehicle stopped initially. Then you see officers screaming, yelling, stop, get out the car, get out the car. Now, when you look, because you don't get the whole view of the front of the vehicle, but I didn't see any officer in front of the vehicle, right? Which officers are trained not to stand in front of vehicles because there's no other options. When you're in training, they tell you that you're trying to preserve life. You don't want to take it. Taking a life should be the last and final option, and there's no other options that exist currently. So they tell you don't stand in front of vehicles, because when you stand in front of vehicles, you actually create the actual deadly force incident. You're supposed to be trying to find other means before you actually pull the trigger. So I didn't see any officers standing in front of the vehicle. Now, in situations like this, I don't see where an officer will be sitting in a car. You know, officers are trained to take cover on incidents like this. Place yourself in a tactical position to where you can see the subject, you can have the subject at gunpoint, but at the same time, if the person were to drive off, you would avoid getting hit. So knowing police officers, because I've been a police officer for a long time and working with them, I doubt if an officer was just sitting in his vehicle. So we didn't see any officers standing in front of that vehicle, which you're told not to stand in front of vehicles. Yes, we have seen times where officers done stand in front of vehicles and they use deadly force, and then they say, oh, I was in fear of my life. Of course you was in fear of your life because you put yourself in front of a vehicle. So, but I didn't see that here. I seen officers on the outside. The subject is extremely, you see turns the wheel. He's trying to get away. Now, if you fast forward it to 4:40 of the video, the subject is apologizing to the officer. I was just trying to get away. And then the officer turns around and says, I thought you was trying to hit us. You ran my car. Okay. Trying to hit us, right, will meet the standard of deadly force, justified deadly force. But you got to be able to, when you say something like that, you got to be able to prove it. If I'm nowhere near in front of your vehicle and you're trying to pull away, you're trying to run, I don't see how this officer is going to make a strong argument that I was in fear of my life. I'm standing away from you. I'm not in front of the vehicle. There was no officer in front of that vehicle. So when you see the officer just turn, you see the subject just turn, the officer just starts shooting. I'm finding that hard to believe as a justified shooting under the deadly force policy. Now, people are going to say, we don't know what he did. He ran. We don't know what he did prior. We don't know why he's running. You could say all the what ifs, right? But policy says, right, a certain element, these two elements have to exist. And looking at this particular video, I didn't see none of those elements. The officer who took the shots wasn't in front of the vehicle. He's on the side. He actually had the subject at gunpoint. His positioning, you could see the individual's hands. He was away from the vehicle. Subject wasn't complying. No, he was not. But he's obviously turning and going the opposite way. Now, when he turns to go the opposite way, I've never seen any officer in front of that vehicle. He decides to use deadly force. Later on in the video, he says, you rammed our cars. That's property damage. That's not someone's life at risk. No officer sitting in that car under these type of scenarios. Everybody's out their car. You positioned yourself. You got your gun out. You're giving orders at the subject. So I don't see how you make that argument that it was justified deadly force. There's no one's life was at risk at that time just before that officer pulled the trigger. So I would think that this is it's not a justified shooting on the police's end. People would say, just comply, just resist. It would be so nice if everybody just complied that you came in contact with. If everybody was just that, cooperative or by the rules, we probably wouldn't even need cops. If you could say just comply and they complied, just don't do criminal acts and we all can just live a criminally free life. Like, it just doesn't work that way. We have officers because we have people that don't follow the rules of society. They violate certain crimes, and we have a system, whether you want to, agree with the system or not, we have a system. And they have to go and answer in front of a court about their conduct, their action, why they're not complying to society's rules. So the whole just comply, it doesn't work that way. When we're in training, we're trained for people who don't comply, right? Officers, they train for people who don't comply. And there's a certain way to handle that non-compliance. So instead of putting the emphasis and the accountability on the subject who's obviously not a person who follows society rules, why don't we put it on the trained individuals who signed up to serve a community? We expect our pilots to follow their flight patterns, doctors to follow their training when they perform an operation. It should be the same for officers. If you're trained to do a job a certain way, especially as a police officer, then it's just simple. Follow your training. Stop throwing the weight on somebody who obviously does not follow the rules. We have people who supposed to go after those people who don't follow rules and bring them, right, to a court so they can answer to their actions. So that's my assessment for today. It's good seeing you guys, and I'll see you at the next assessment. Like I always tell you, it's okay to stand up for what you believe in. Remember one thing, the officer has the home court advantage on that side of the road. So be careful on how much you're willing to push that envelope to stand up for what you believe in. Your fight is definitely in the courtroom. You got more officers getting charged, fired, suspension than ever before in history. They're going to jail. They're getting fired, right? So there is some form of accountability happening. Take it off the street. That officer has that home court advantage. Don't push it so much to where you become a hashtag and then you leaving everybody else to fight for your rights. Don't do that. Make it home safe to your families, ladies and gentlemen. Love you guys and be safe.